As I was setting up to film this video, Yoli got excited and look what's happened. My philodendron splendid was just starting to grow back. The tail strikes again. Hello everyone, I hope you are having a lovely day so far. I said recently that I am feeling fairly on top of my plant chores at the moment, which is not something that happens very often, but it leaves me in kind of the luxury position of being able to look at things and think, okay, what do I want to do? Like what maybe isn't necessary, but what have I been really looking forward to doing at some point? How can I level up my plants and kind of upgrade their growing conditions to get the most out of them? So yeah, I've got some repotting that I want to do today. I've got some potentially fun, kind of more decorative projects that I've been looking forward to. So yeah, that is the plan. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learnt over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And you guys have also sent in some questions for today, so I thought we could do a little Q&A, report and chat type thing. So as always, if you've got stuff to do as well, feel free to grab it and do it along with me. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. So the first plant that I've been looking at and wanting to do something to literally since I first got it is this Dischidia oiantha. And I got this one, I think around about a month and a half ago now. And it is so incredibly gorgeous. And as you can see, it's growing in quite a weird way. It's growing kind of displayed on this hanger. And it's obviously an epiphytic plant, so it is fine growing like this, but it's growing just either on a piece of like tree fern fibre or coir or bark. I can't quite tell what it is. But the only problem with this plant growing like this is that it has become a very high maintenance plant because obviously whatever this thing is that it's growing on doesn't hold a huge amount of water. It means that I'm just having to kind of dunk and soak this plant sometimes every other day, or it's just drying out and going very floppy. And I actually love the look of it like this. I would quite like to keep it this way if I could, but it doesn't seem the most practical. So I'd like to get it off the hanger and think then about how I pot it up. I'm not entirely sure. It's also kind of hard to tell exactly how this plant's growing because obviously there's lots of individual strands of it hanging down, but I'm not quite sure how long it is. Maybe I'll trellis it. I don't quite know, but I thought I would just start with getting it off and I could go through some of your questions and then we could chat through the plans for this plant together. I think you can see what I'm doing. I'm pretty sure you can see what I'm doing. But the first question is one that I bumped to the top of the list because it seems very relevant. One of you asked, are you still off nicotine? And the answer is yes. I have now officially been a year off nicotine, which I'm very, very happy about. It's something I haven't really spoken about in videos that much because I don't know, it doesn't really seem that relevant, but it is a really big achievement. I said it, I think this time last year when I first spoke about it, but I started smoking at quite a young age and I, over the years, tried again and again to quit. And I then took up vaping, which little did I know was even more addictive than smoking, and tried countless times. Also, there's these horrible rusty pins holding this in place, so I'm very glad to be getting it off actually. But yeah, I tried to quit so many times, and then last year I just went, I know Stoptober is such a silly excuse, but sometimes it just helps if you're kind of close to getting there, and I was so ready to stop. So yeah, it's now been officially a year, so it feels really amazing to be able to say that, and it is just, oh God, it's just so nice to not be constantly like looking for my vape or feeling panicky because I haven't had nicotine. If anyone here has quit, I mean, anything, but yeah, I think nicotine, it just hooks you in, doesn't it? So if any of you are thinking of quitting, oh my God, like I know it will be the toughest thing in the world, but it is the most liberating feeling to be able to have like taken my life away from it and not be focusing things around that anymore. So yeah, I feel very proud of myself. Also, I think this actually might be made up of quite long strands. I'm just unwinding them and I don't want to disrupt, it's really hard not to actually, but I don't want to disrupt the roots too much. So you can see if you look just there, it has got little roots that are obviously clinging on to what I think is actually bark, now that I can get a better look at it. But then another question was, what is your favourite genus to grow right now? Oh, I feel like that is something that's always changing for me. I'm still very much enjoying experimenting with anthuriums. That's something that has really been a bit of an off-camera focus for me this year. I've been doing loads of experimenting. I've been trying loads of things that usually I'd be a little bit scared of, like different substrates and soilless growing and all this sort of stuff. So I'm really enjoying that. But I think probably right now, if I had to pick just one, I would actually probably say alocasia. I know I've said it in videos over the last few months, but I feel like I've kind of had a new lease of life with alocasias. I've just been really enjoying, again, experimenting with them, introducing new species into my collection, and yeah, not that I ever went off them before, but you know how sometimes things come in waves. Sometimes you'll be really, really excited about something and then a new excitement will take over and then you'll kind of put the old one on a back burner. Yeah, that's how I'm feeling with alocasias, but I've kind of rediscovered them a little bit, if that makes sense. What about you guys? Do you have a favourite genus that you're growing at the moment? And if so, why, out of interest? Like, what makes it your favourite? Is it the growth is rewarding? Is it that you're experimenting with a new way of growing? Let me know in the comments below, because I'm always so interested to hear how things are going with your collections. Okay, so the first strand has been released. So I think I'm probably gonna be getting strands like this all the way through, which means I will be able to make up a really beautiful full pot of this plant, which is very exciting. It does just mean it's going to be a little bit fiddly, but hey ho. It feels quite satisfying, even if it is going to be a bit time consuming. Are you still learning Spanish? Sí, todavía estamos aprendiendo español. So you might remember I partnered with Babbel, one of the world's leading language apps, a while back.
Hola, Claire.
Hola, Ross.
Hola, Yoli.
And they have also sponsored today's video, so thank you, Babbel.
Muchas gracias!
As you guys know, these last couple of months have been ridiculously busy for me. I have just been running around like a headless chicken, and for that reason I haven't dedicated as much time to Spanish as I would have liked to have done. But that is the really great thing about Babbel. You can just kind of pick it up at a time that suits you. You're not tied into, for example, like daily or even weekly lessons. You can literally just work it around your own schedule and do it when works for you, which has been so useful for me. It's meant that sometimes I'll do an hour's worth of lessons in the morning, or I'll do 20 minutes in the evening or something like that, and I still don't feel like I've fallen behind. The lessons are designed by real language teachers and are genuinely so much fun. They just feel like playing a quiz game on your phone. There's also lots of languages to choose from, not just Spanish. Aunque realmente estamos disfrutando aprender español, ¿verdad, Yoli? If any of you are interested in trying Babbel, either to learn a new language from scratch or to brush up on what you already know, then you can get 60% off a subscription when you click the link in the description box below. And if you were wondering if Ross is still learning Spanish, I can confirm that he is.
Que siguen sexys as mantas de las plantas.
So thank you again, Babbel. And now on to the next question, which is, when did you last buy a plant? When did I last buy a plant? This might in fact, oh no, that's such a lie. I was going to say this might have been the last plant that I bought, but that is such a fib. I bought a plant today. It wasn't it wasn't a planned purchase, a plant, if they ever planned purchases, I don't know. It was kind of an impulse buy, but it was also a plant that I've been eyeing up for a little while. If you watch my other videos, then you'll know that I absolutely adore my Anthurium pallidiflorum. It is probably my favourite plant in my collection at the moment, or definitely high up on that list. And several of you have said to me recently, if you love growing the Pallidiflorum, then you should get a narrow form of Pallidiflorum, which it's kind of in the name. It looks very similar to the Pallidiflorum, but it's much thinner leafed. If I can find a picture, I'll put it on the screen. But oh my goodness, it's gorgeous. And I was just doing a little spontaneous Google and I saw one for a price that I was happy with. And so I bit the bullet and I ordered it. So that is my most, oh God, I can think of loads of ones since this actually. I was going to say that's my most recent plant purchase. One of the other ones, I've got a few begonia cuttings recently, which I'm really excited about. I have shown, if you're over on my Patreon, I've shown you some of them already. But one of them, in fact, is one that I hope to get onto today. So I will show you that shortly because it's a very exciting one. Apart from that, as much as I've wanted to buy more plants, and I know I've just listed off a load of plant purchases, but I am trying to be a little bit good just because, like, when I know I'm always saying space is running out and I always just seem to make room for more stuff, but it is getting incredibly squished. Like I was saying it in a video, again, I think it was a Patreon video the other day, I was like, there is a pile of pots that just pretty much permanently lives in the middle of the room now. I've got plants that aren't actually getting the best like lighting conditions because they're being literally shadowed by other plants. I need to have a little rethink and rejig of things in this space, I think. Because yeah, obviously we are also just coming out of, also look at those roots, some great roots. We are also just coming out of growing season, and you don't notice things when you see them in your plants every single day, but I appear to have had a very good growing season. I've got lots of lovely growth out of my plants, but it does just mean that if I was short on space before, it's even more tight now. So I do find it very, very difficult to practice constraint when it comes to plants. It is 100% an addiction, and I know people joke about that, but honestly, it's like, if I have a bad day or I ever need cheering up, I would just find myself online looking at Etsy shops, at websites that I know, like thinking, oh, you know what, I should drive to the garden centre. It is just the thing that is like, yeah, my therapy / addiction. But yes, I am not planning on buying any more anytime soon, or if I do, they will be small cuttings that hopefully by the time they've grown, I might have a little bit more space. So yeah, that's the very long answer to that very short question. One of you asked, do you think you'll get another dog? Oh, it is a conversation that we've had. Obviously, in our current situation here, living at a 1-bedroom flat, firstly, I've just talked about lack of space. We couldn't really do it, and to be honest, I don't think it would be fair. I definitely wouldn't be fair on another dog to do that. Already, because we don't have a garden, like if Yoli needs to go out in the night, I have to take her down to a nearby car park where there's a bit of grass that she can go, and like, it's just so far from ideal. When we do have some more space, yes, that is definitely something that will be on the cards. I would love for Yoli to have a little friend. I've said it before, because she is a very, she's a Greek rescue dog, if you don't know. She's also very reactive. She is a lovely girl, but she doesn't always, in fact, doesn't always get on with other dogs. She sees another dog on a lead, even if it's 100 meters away, and she will be growling and barking, and like, she really is very, very reactive. So it would have to be the right dog. But that being said as well, Ross has got some very close friends that foster dogs on a regular basis, and so I've spoken about them before. They've always got new dogs coming through their care, and Yoli has always got on really, really well with them. So the nice thing when the time comes, hello baby, when the time comes, I think we will be able to get a rescue via them, if that makes sense. They'll be able to foster a dog that we like the look of, and then we'll be able to kind of test the waters with Yoli and see how things go and kind of play it by ear from there. Because yeah, honestly, I could just fill my house and any future house that I have with just dogs and plants. I think I'd be happy as Larry. So So yes, at some point we would love to get another dog. Also, this is fiddly. And it looks like I'm probably moving at snail's pace. I actually think I'm making quite good progress. But with some of it, it's not quite clear. It's not quite clear like what's attached and what's pinned. Oh dear. Oh, damn it. I've just pinched off a lovely section that actually had some new growth coming on it. So I'm thinking maybe I will try and pin that down the top of the pot that I do next. I think as well, because these pins are so concealed, they're the same colour as this mossy thing. Sometimes you don't see them and therefore you end up accidentally ripping growth out, which I don't like doing. Which plant would you get rid of if you had to? Oh, I've had questions like this before and I always find them really hard to answer. I mean, actually, particularly at the moment, because I have been going through over these last few months and I have been doing a little bit of downsizing / decluttering in my collection. Oh, okay, I have an answer. I think right now, if I had to get rid of a plant, it's one that I've kept in my collection for a reason, and I will talk you through that in a minute, but I think it would be the Lepismium cruciform. I spoke about this one recently, or not that long ago, maybe within the last month, saying I wasn't a fan of the way it was growing and how I'd seen them in other people's collections and they looked amazing. I will put either a clip or a photo of mine in so that you can see it, but I'm not currently a massive fan of my plant. But as I say, when I do see it growing in other people's collections, maybe it's an environmental thing, but I really like the look of the plant. Mine just seems to be growing a bit differently. So I've switched out its conditions, I've changed up its lighting, I've adjusted a few things to try and get it to grow in the way that I would like it to grow. And if it doesn't respond well, then that is a plant that I will be parting with. So I guess right now, if I had to get rid of one thing, seeing as, yeah, that just feels like the logical option, because it was a kind of shall I, shan't I for a while. But yeah, again, what about you guys? Like, if you had a plant or two that you had to part with in your collection, why would you choose that plant? What would they be? I think it's really healthy every now and again to have a bit of a downsize, and I know I've kind of spoken about it more and more probably within the last year, just because my collection several times has hit a point where I've kind of gone, oh, okay, this feels like, not just space-wise, this feels like maximum capacity for me. I wouldn't want to take on any more because I don't feel like, I don't know, I want to keep plant care as much as I can. I want to keep it light and enjoyable and relaxing, and I don't want it to feel like, oh my god, there's so much to do and I can't keep up with it. There have been times before where my collection, it's not even always to do with size, but I think just the demand of your collection. There's been times where I will get on top and then literally a day later I'm like, oh my god, I'm behind again. Whereas now, a lot of the time when I'm on top, I'm like, ah, cool, like things can be left for a week sometimes. Like I won't have to do anything at all. I can just kind of sit back and admire stuff. Obviously, I do tend to do little bits and bobs within that time, but yeah, I like the feeling of having a collection that's fun to maintain, and I don't want to take it, yeah, I want to just stay within that. So like, obviously that might change. Like right now, what's manageable for me might be very different to what's manageable for me in 5 years' time. Like circumstances, spaces, all that sort of stuff changes. So yeah, I am just kind of continuing to listen to what I feel is my limit, I guess. And right now I'd say I'm at a good number of plants. I want to get more because I'm on top of things, but yeah, I've got my narrow form Pallidiflorum to look forward to at least, which I'm very excited about. My god, I'm very excited about that. One of you said, how do you treat thrips? I'm struggling. Oh, it is the time of year for thrips, isn't it? I have also found thrips on several of my plants in the last couple of weeks. Also, this table, every time I hit it, is so dramatic. So it really depends. I have tried so many things over the years. Like, I cannot even tell you how many things I've tried. I'm still continuing to try new things as well. I don't have a one size fits all for any pest, really, to be honest. But on the whole, for juvenile thrips, and when I say juvenile thrips, I mean the ones that aren't like dark, the ones that are you often see them in like, oh, I hate the word, but like clusters. Like, they're often in my experience, the more common. So for them, the younger thrips, I keep predatory mites in my collection the whole time to just try and keep things at bay. A lot of you have said, oh, I've used predatory mites and I've still seen thrips. And honestly, there's nothing that I've used in a home environment that ever completely eradicates everything forever. I think when you've got a big collection of plants, it is just about keeping things under control. And since I've been using predatory mites, I haven't had an infestation, and I haven't even had to worry about an infestation. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to see the odd one or two from time to time. It just feels much more manageable. So yeah, predatory mites is something, I think it's Cucumeris and I can't remember. I get mine from Ladybird Plant Care, and I will link that down below because it's really awesome, and it's where I shop all the time for my predatory mites and nematodes and all that sort of stuff. And then for the... So, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So, yes, that's what I do for maintenance. Horticultural soap as well. So if I see a, again, I hate the word, but cluster of thrips on a leaf, which actually I saw in my cabinet quite recently, I will take the plant out. Obviously, if you've been using predatory mites on the plant, some of them might be affected by this, and there's nothing you can really do to stop that. But I'll remove any predatory mite sachets I've currently got on there, and I will just use horticultural soap to give both sides of the leaf stem a really good scrub down. You should, in theory, then isolate that plant. If you're like me and you've got a big collection with not a lot of space, that's not always that doable. If it's a really severe infestation, then I would say even if that plant needs to live outside or live in a dark bathroom or something like that, then that is the better option than it spreading. So sometimes I will have plants living in total darkness in my bathroom or colder temperatures than they should out on my balcony, but that does feel, as I say, it does feel like the better option. So yeah, horticultural soap. And then, yeah, just repeating that. I mean, with the anthurium that I found thrips on in my cabinet, I actually eventually made the decision to lop the main leaf back. And I've essentially started that plant again. You don't always have to do that. And usually, if you're vigilant with your checking... Oh, that's an annoying sound. I hope that's not too distracting. Someone's obviously cutting a hedge outside. But yeah, if you're vigilant with your checking and your treating, then typically that should be enough to keep them at bay. The dark adult thrips are a little bit more difficult in my experience. They tend to come in smaller numbers. Like, as I say, this is all in my experience. They tend to appear in smaller numbers. In fact, you know what? Before I get into that, I'm just going to close that window because for me, that's very loud and distracting. Also, because I've been sitting on my legs for so long, they'd gone completely numb, and I got to the kitchen, like, almost stacked it. Also, before we get back to thrips, another new, very freaky, very weird creation of Ross's. As I say, now we're kind of getting a little back to normal. He's doing more crafting, and it's very good. It's very creepy. But yeah, that's the latest roster. But yes, with the black adult thrips, typically every single time I see them, I will squash them. You can just do it very easily with your fingers, even if you're squeamish. Like, honestly, it's not gross. They can be quite tough. Like, they've got a slightly, I don't know, the texture of them. Sometimes if you don't quite squish them, then you have to kind of re-squish them, which is horrible. Again, horticultural soap. I just want to say as well that although I'm talking about predatory mites and stuff like that, if an infestation if it becomes an infestation, and if it's something that I think is going to bring down more plants to my collection, or it gets to the point where I feel like I'm going to lose a plant, I will still go in with a stronger pest treatment like Provanto or something like that. I know it's very strong chemical pesticides. I don't like to use that if I possibly can, but I also think if you've got a plant that you paid a lot of money for, or even if you didn't, even if it's just a plant that you love, like, in my personal opinion, I would go ahead and I would use something like that in order to save the plants. So I've always got something like that in my cupboard, but typically, I'm trying to think when the last time I had to use that was with my big Monstera Deliciosa that is there in the corner. Because as you can see, that one is very much amongst other plants. It's very much touching other things. And I can't remember exactly when it was that I discovered thrips on that one, but it was really quite bad. And I was just like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to isolate that plant. So I did spritz the whole thing with Provanto. I think my process with that, because I found adult and juvenile thrips, and I was like, oh God, that's 2 in 1, the worst. I took it out on the balcony and it was a nightmare because we've got scaffolding up on the balcony at the moment and it made it very difficult to do. I sponged the whole thing down. I used horticultural soap, both sides of the leaves, stems, all that sort of thing. And then I spritzed the whole thing with Provanto. And it's now, I want to say about 6 weeks later, and I haven't seen any more thrips. I have obviously been keeping a very close eye on the plant. I fully accept the fact that I might need to do another treatment. In fact, it's quite likely at some point that I will need to do another treatment, but sometimes if you are really thorough, then you can get away with just doing one. So you never know. I am checking it pretty much every day at the moment, just because I really don't want things to spread if there is still anything lurking. But yeah, and then like the only thing with predatory mites is now I can't use predatory mites in that area because it doesn't, the chemical pesticides don't only, or systemic pesticides, should I say, because everything's a chemical. The systemic pesticide that I used on that plant, because it gets right into the cells of your plants, anything that comes into contact with that plant, including predatory mites for, I think it's about 4 weeks, will also potentially die. So yeah, I'm currently keeping my predatory mites purely on my cabinet and on my window, in my cabinet and on my window shelves. And yeah, I've said it a million times before, but if you like, I think, yeah, pests are just something that you do have to deal with from time to time. And honestly, don't let it be, I don't know, like, although it's a pain, it is always a pain. Don't let it be something that really, really gets you down if you can possibly help it, because it is just one of these things that comes along with having plants. It's like, for example, if you didn't flea and worm your cat or dog, they would have fleas and worms. It's just something, yeah, like we as people have microscopic mites living on our skin. I know that's gross, but like it just happens. It's just part of nature. So especially if you're like me and you're using soil mixes that don't contain treatment chemicals, they haven't been kind of processed. Again, I'm using the word chemicals. I just want to make it very clear. Everything is a chemical. Even the most natural essential oil thing is technically a chemical. But even if you use things like, I always bang on about Soil Ninja, they don't use any harsh, horrible things to treat their soil. I don't think they even heat treat their soil. So all of the goodness of the soil is still there. It does come along with typically beneficial insects and beneficial things that do your plants good. But it can also bring with it some of the bad things as well. And that is just something that happens when you're trying to create a symbiotic relationship in your home. And to be honest, it's scarier than it sounds. I think if you've never experienced pests before, then of course it's terrifying. My God, I remember the first time I discovered spider mites and I almost cried. In fact, the first time I had spider mites was, I'd had thrips before, loads. But the first time I ever had spider mites was when I was living at my mum's house, which was probably 3 years ago now. and it was a philodendron marmee that I was growing, and I remember it had a new leaf, and I was doing the naughty thing of trying to unfurl the new leaf and see what was going on in there. And I remember unfurling it and just seeing all of these spider mites, and I was like, no! And that eventually did bring down the plant as well. I wasn't particularly equipped to deal with them, and I just freaked out and then lost the plant. But yeah, that as I say, going back to thrips, that for me is how I go about things. I don't think there's any right or wrong way. Some ways work better than others. It is a personal preference for me that I try not to use things like pesticides, but as I say, you've just sometimes got to make the call and just do what feels right for you. Also, on a positive note, we're so nearly there. I think this is the last strand, maybe. Yay. Ah, okay. It is done. And now I not only need to make the decision about how I grow this plant, because I don't know if you can see, there is so much of it, but also how I pot it, because some of the bits that it's rooted from, like obviously that's rooted right at the top, but then there's also some that are rooted right in the middle, and I'm like, do I then just plant it, I don't know, do I plant it like that? Or do I chop it in half? I don't know. This is quite exciting. Right, so I've brought over lots of containers, and I've thought a little bit about the way that I'd like to do some of the plants today. And this one, I think, so I'm not massively, when I say I'm not massively familiar with Dischidia, I've got one in my collection. I've got a Dischidia watermelon, and I've got like 50 or 60 different species of Hoyas, and I know that this is very closely related to a Hoya, so I'm going to treat it like a Hoya. And you guys know that I get obsessed about certain ways of growing. My latest obsession is soil no drainage, and I found these containers at Tesco last time we went, and I think they're just like vases. I got about 7 of them, I think 6 or 7, and they are plastic, but they, what am I saying? The reason that I like these as opposed to jars, for example, and this is another thing I was hoping to do today, is they don't have the kind of smaller lip at the top, meaning that like you can just lift them straight out. You're never going to have to break the jar to get them out. And this feels like it might be a good option. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to just put a layer of semi-hydro at the bottom, either lacquer or some chunky pon style mix, and then I'm going to mix up a chunky mix to do at the top. Yeah, as I say, I've been doing that for lots of plants. In fact, I've got an anthurium here that I've been doing it with recently, and again, it's responding brilliantly. This is, I believe, a little crystallinum hybrid, but it's a bit too soon to tell. As you can see, layer of semi-hydro at the bottom, and then this is actually a soily mix, which I'm trying for this anthurium, but that's what I've done on top. Oh my God. That's another thing that I was hoping to do today, so I think that should be next on the list. That was in a precarious position. Okay. One of you said, where do you get the clear sheeting for your moss poles? I get this question so much, and I'm obviously just not very good at linking it enough. I will link the exact stuff that I use. I get it on Amazon. I will link it in the description box below this video. I'm not sure if that, like, the link that I use will be able to be used if you're like in the US or anywhere else in the world, but I'll link the stuff that I use, and then you can always just search for it. But yeah, I've tried a few different things over the years, and that stuff works brilliantly. It's sturdy enough. It's the one that my very sad philodendron splendid is on. It's sturdy enough to be able to like hole punch and hold its shape, but also it's malleable enough to be able to like create all sorts of moss poles. Like you can create quite a flat D moss pole. You could almost create a round one with it. I want to say it's like acetate sheeting or something, but yeah, as I say, I will link it below. I also, doing this and realising that I am so low on substrates again. I need to get some more. And in fact, one thing that I wanted to do today, but I didn't have enough semi-hydro or a suitable pot to be able to do, is I wanted to pot the beautiful Dieffenbachia that you might be able to see behind me. I wanted to pot this in semi-hydro. Oh, this is a new plant. This is a plant that I've bought recently. How can I forget about this one? This is a Dieffenbachia, I think, tropical snow. And I know I'm completely defeating the point of what I just said about, oh, I haven't got space and I can only get cuttings. It's like the biggest plant ever, I know. But some of you may be aware there has been a very exciting wedding in the plant community recently. One of my best friends, Emma, with Growing, has just got married, and I'm sure over on her channel she'll be sharing lots of stuff on that and kind of talking you through all the ins and outs. But let's just say houseplants were somewhat involved with her wedding, and this is one of the ones that I saw on the day, fell in love with, and yeah, it's a beautiful plant, but it's also really nice to have a little piece of Emma's wedding day. So yeah, that's why I've come back with such a big plant. Whoops-a-daisy. How is this already so dirty, this container? I must have done that just now. With string of things as well, it's always, I always start potting and then I get higher as I go, so this might not be, I don't know, I feel like there might be a bit of jiggery pokery needed here to get this right. Someone said, do you ever get imposter syndrome? Yeah, like weirdly enough, I was talking to someone about this literally the other day. I get it all the time, literally all the time, in so many scenarios of my life. I feel like in some ways it's perhaps got a little bit better as I've got older. But I always find myself thinking like, oh God, I can't believe anyone actually wants to watch my videos. Like, don't get me wrong, I know I'm I know I'm not like awful to watch, but I don't know. I find it yeah, I often find myself feeling like, oh, I shouldn't be here, or oh God, like why do people want to listen to this, or like double guessing myself. I really try not to do it because I know it's not a productive or particularly healthy headspace to live in. And as I say, I do think I'm better than I was. Also, I don't know how to pot this. I don't know what to do. Apart from what I was saying about like the half, maybe. Oh, the battery died as I was procrastinating. But yes, going back to the question, I very much do get the imposter syndrome thing. The more people I speak to about it, the more I realise that a lot of us do get it. I think because I don't know the reason, but I think it's just on some level just lack of confidence in yourself. And I think because you can never see yourself in the same way as other people see you. Like there's just taking it back to plants again for a minute, just specific to what I do, but like I have got other creators, lots of other creators. Some of them have massively huge followings, some of them have teeny tiny followings, but I've got other creators in the plant space that I really love listening to or watching or like engaging with in some way myself. And I always find it absolutely, oh, I just broke that in half. Okay. I always find it absolutely crazy that that people do that with my videos, that people want to watch my videos and like, yeah, like I just find that a very strange thing, even though I'm like, I work hard at doing what I do and like, I don't know, I cannot put it into words. I think the short answer is just, yes, I get it. And I've had it like with everything on some level throughout my life. Like I remember when I first got into drama school, I remember meeting everyone in my year for the first time. and thinking to myself like, oh my God, has there been a mistake? Like, am I actually meant to be here? Like, everyone's going to be better than me, or like, they're just like silly little worries that I'm sure lots of us have, but maybe, I don't know, maybe just don't let on to having so much. I don't know. As I say as well, I'm also not sure if I'm doing this correctly. I don't even know if there is a correct way. If there's roots, I'm just going to put them in the soil. And if there's not, then I'm going to just make some new cuts and put them in. And there is going to be a little bit of leafage, unless I remove loads of leaves here, there is going to be some leaves covered in the substrate, which I know can make things a little bit more susceptible to rotting. You know what, I'm going to remove more leaves. Some are going to have to be in here just because of the way it's growing, but yeah, I'm going to remove a little bit more. Is there a type of plant that you hate? I don't think there's a gene. There's some I like more than others. I wouldn't say that there's any that I particularly hate. Just looking around thinking if there's any I don't particularly like. So up until recently, I would have probably said begonia. I've never been particularly big on begonias. I've always thought that they're just fine and they all kind of, they've got a similar form and therefore they all kind of look the same. And weirdly enough, I have found myself kind of getting into begonias a little bit in the last kind of 3-4 months. And I have got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I've got about 8 or 9 different types of begonia in my collection now, which if you'd said that to me a year ago, I would have gone, oh my God, crazy. I don't think there's any specific types that I hate. I'll circle back to that if I think of any, but currently, no. Something popped into my head a minute ago, but I can't remember. I can't remember what it was. So obviously it wasn't that bad. Also, I'm even wondering if I might be able to reuse these horrible little rusty pins to like keep things securely in this, because I feel like until they're rooted they might just fall out. This is going to be an incredibly full pot. How often would you recommend dusting your plants? I've said it before, so how often I would recommend dusting my plants and how often I actually dust my plants are two very different things. Things like dusting though, those are the kind of things that I feel like I can now potentially do a bit of catching up with because I am a little bit more on top of things. So I would say probably, ideally, especially if you're growing your plants in a home environment, which doubtless will be not providing as good a conditions as it would be getting in its natural habitat, I would say you should probably be dusting your plants like once every week or 2. When you've got a big collection, it's very difficult to keep on top of that. The best way that I've found to attempt to somewhat keep on top of stuff like that is just take my plants through to the shower every so often and shower them down. As you shower them down, they also have a layer of dust and dirt removed as well. That seems like a pretty good way to kind of like double things up. As I say, I often find myself saying, oh, make sure you clean your plants' leaves regularly, and I'm there sitting thinking to myself, you know what, I don't do this. But if I'm giving advice, I need to give the right advice. So yeah, as often as you think of it probably. I would say don't bother with these leaf shine things on the whole. So you can get some that are non-oil based, and I think in fact there was one that I used a while ago that was aloe vera based, and it was meant to just basically be a pest preventative rub, and it also gave your plants a slight shine with it. I didn't find it was pest preventative, and I found that the shine went away very quickly and it didn't do the plant any good. So typically I would say don't bother with stuff like that. But yeah, I should really be dusting my plants more. In fact, maybe I should just start getting them in the shower and doing a little spritz of them all while I've got the ability to not have lots of things going wrong. I'm even wondering if perhaps I could do a couple of these. I'm just thinking this is going to be a lot. Where do you want to live in the future? So obviously, like, I think, yeah, as you grow up, you do think about, like, would I move abroad or anything like that? As much as I would love to get some better weather, because, oh my God, the weather in England a lot of the time is just dismal, I actually really like living in the UK. There's lots of areas of the UK that I would like to explore more. I'm currently about an hour outside of London in Surrey, and I love Surrey. I really, really do. There's obviously nice parts and not so nice parts, and you get that everywhere, don't you? But I lived in London for years actually, and although I loved it at the time, for me personally, it was quite, I didn't really realise it at the time actually, but it was quite an exhausting way of life. And then I moved completely the opposite way. I moved from London to the coast. I moved to a little seaside town called Worthing. And I was like, oh, I was like, this is lovely. I was like, this is so cut off compared to anything I was used to. But I'm very much a country. Oh, I like living in the country. I like having easy access to London. I know for a fact I would not live in London again, though. For me, like, I look back very fondly on my London days, but I am much happier being that little bit more further out and cut off. It feels much more me. And I look at places like Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, like there's places like that that I could totally see myself living in the future. On a practical note, I also would like to, especially as she gets older, I'd really like to be close to my mum, and my mum is also Surrey based, so I think for the next however long that means that I will kind of be here in this area. But yeah, who knows? I actually really, as I say, I really like where I found myself at the moment. Like the exact area that I'm in now, I didn't know a single person that lived here before I moved here. I just found my flat, and it obviously had good light, and at the time that was pretty much the requirement. I was like, I know I want to leave my mum's house and be able to do things myself. And so yeah, I was terrified moving here by myself, because I was like, I don't know anyone. I didn't have a car. I was pretty cut off. But no, it has been a really great decision for me, and I have loved every moment of this flat, honestly. Although we are perhaps slightly outgrowing it now, it is, yeah, it's been my little sanctuary, and it's been the first place that I've been able to create my own little jungle, really, because everywhere else I've lived, I've kind of very much had to do it on other people's terms to make it work around lots of other things, and this is the first place that I moved into by myself, and I was like, oh, I could do anything. So yeah, for now, I think I would like to stay around here. That would be my choice. But yeah, so who knows further down the line. Hit me with recommendations though, please. Like, there's loads of places that I'd like to explore, and I think actually if I had to move somewhere abroad right now, I would probably say New Zealand would be my go-to. We've got family friends that live out there, and I went quite a few times when I was younger, and oh my God, it's just beautiful. But again, it's got a feel of British countryside to it, and that is something that I just really, really, really like. So yeah, I just think they do things very well over there, like, without getting too political, they are better to their people. It feels much more of a, I was going to say much more of a democracy. That's not necessarily what I mean. I think it feels like they put human needs before financial needs. And I'm sure that isn't the case. I'm sure there's lots of stuff that I don't know about. I'm just, from an outsider's perspective, it just feels like they get a lot right that we don't always hear in the UK. So yeah, I admire their values somewhat more than ours. Also, I have not got a clue, so I'm currently building this plant back up, but when it comes to actually putting soil in here, substrate, whatever you want to call it, the stuff to pack in over the roots, I have no idea how I'm going to go about it. It's not even the sort of thing I can use a funnel for because I've put lots of chunky bark and stuff in, so I think I'm just going to have to make a lot of mess, is what I think. Oh, someone said, did you have a good birthday? I had a lovely birthday, thank you for asking. I think as you get older, it often just doesn't really feel like your birthday, does it? I'm never the sort of person that does anything for my birthday, even for my 30th. I think, did I do anything for my 30th? I bought myself some plants. But yeah, I'm never, I don't know, I love other people's birthdays, but I'm never as much of a fan of my own. So I had my birthday this year, the day before Emma's wedding. So we'd gone up a day early to help like set everything up, and they had their kind of rehearsal dinner thing that night, and bless her, she'd arranged a cake for me and everything. So I had little birthday celebrations with celebrating Emma getting married the next day as well. So it was actually lovely. It was really, really lovely. And Ross got me some lovely things. He got me, again, if you're on my Patreon, you will have seen it. He got me a fleece, which I can't show you because I think it's in the wash now. The wash, which has got Yoli's face embroidered on it, and it's adorable. It's my dog walking fleece. And he also got us tickets to go see Stranger Things, the musical. We've had some friends that have seen it recently, and we hear it's very good. So that'll be fun. I'm actually, I can't remember if I said this or not, but so Ross might not strike you as the sort of person, but he is really, really into heavy metal. Like heavy metal rock is like his thing. He absolutely loves it. And to be completely honest, it's not mine. Like it's just a type of music that I have never, like rock, yes, but metal is not my sort of thing. And Ross loves Slipknot, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with Slipknot, but if you are, then you'll probably be able to tell that they're not particularly my sort of thing. But I got him tickets to Slipknot for his birthday, which is going to be in London towards the end of the year. And bless him, he knows that it's not particularly my sort of thing. But so he booked the Stranger Things musical. I'm saying musical, I'm sure it's a musical. But he booked those tickets the day after Slipknot. So we're going to kind of make a couple of days of it, go up to London, stay up there, do his music thing, and then do the musical, which will be fun. So that's something to look forward to. And in fact, one of the questions somewhere on here, I don't know whereabouts it is, but someone said, do you have Christmas plans? And it made my heart just go, oh, because that, like, how are we almost at Christmas? Well, we're not almost at Christmas. How are we in, when you watch this, it will be October. How are we in October already? I do not understand it. Yeah, this year, I know people say it every year, but honestly, this year, for me, has just flown by. Ross has been living here for a year now. How weird is that? It feels like he's just moved in. It's so strange. But yeah, plans for Christmas. Haven't even thought about it. Honestly, haven't even thought about it. Last year, we were ill all over Christmas. So the goal for this year is just not to be ill. I would have thought we'll probably, I don't know, go to my mum's, or we might even have Christmas here. That was the plan last year. We were going to actually just have Christmas, the two of us, in the flat together, just because it was our first Christmas together as a couple. And yeah, we were so ill, we only managed a little bit of the Christmas dinner that took like hours to cook because we were feeling so unwell. So I do hope this year will be a little bit brighter. Again, are you guys as organised to know what you're doing at Christmas yet? I think it kind of helps with me and Ross that both of us have got incredibly small families, like between, I think, all of our family members on both sides we can count on one hand. So it does just mean that like all of the obligatory visits and all that sort of stuff, we only have to do like 1 or 2. So yeah, it does help. One of you said, what's the last plant that you either killed or gave up on? And I'm trying to think what it was. I can think of plants in the past that I've kind of given up on. Okay, I know one. In fact, I know 2. One of them is one that when I was going through and I was watching, I was looking back at the plants from my houseplant tour the other day because I was doing a side-by-side comparison video, and I noticed my Philodendron domesticum variegata. That's one that I do believe ended up going in the bin just because it was just always looking so unhappy. I really didn't care about the plant. It had thrips so many times. I would treat it for thrips and then every new leaf would unfurl with thrips. It had lost its variegation. Yeah, so that's one that I think I just gave up on, and it did die. Or got binned, sorry. The other one I was going to say, and I haven't fully given up on it yet, although it has been just sat on my kitchen countertop for ages doing nothing, is the Philodendron martianum. And that's another one that I, again, chopped up, like very much chopped up, and I was like, I'm going to start again. I haven't started it again. It's just there, and it currently just looks like nothing, but it's one that I would be keen to restart, but I don't know, I just don't seem to have the up and go with that plant very much. And there's a plant swap, another plant swapper doing one in London in October, which I am going to. So I'm hoping maybe if I decide to not do anything with that plant again, then maybe I'll be able to, in fact, I'm sure I'll be able to find a new owner at the plant swap. Also, this is so hard because I did such a chunky mix. Hoping this isn't going to be too top heavy. My fear is that because oh my god, it is just heavy in general. But yeah, I'm hoping it won't like pull itself forward. My god, that looks gorgeous though. I've done it all facing one direction just because it's easier to deal with for now, but obviously I can kind of spread it out as time goes on if I want to. And this is something that I kind of touched on earlier in the video, but someone said, do you actively have pests in your collection? I think the answer to that is probably always yes. So currently I can't think of a plant that has pests, but I do see pests from time to time. Like in fact, I saw a thrip on my variegated alocasia Frydek this morning. Couldn't see any others. It was, I hope, just an anomaly thrip. Oh, and in fact, you know what? My Monstera dubia is one that over the years I have just found to be like weirdly susceptible to mealybugs. And I found a mealybug on that the other day. No, I wouldn't say I've like got pests, but there are definitely pests in here. To be honest, like every time I come back from a dog walk, I'm sure I accidentally bring stuff back with me. Okay, I don't think I can get any more in here. I don't want to disrupt things, so for now I'm going to just leave it like that. I will obviously fill its reservoir and hopefully it starts to root. I'm going to keep it on one of my window shelves, keep it very still, out of the way of tails, and I do hope, yeah, I do hope that that will be enough. So I had loads of things. In fact, this will be quick, so I may as well do it. But I don't believe I've shown you over here on YouTube yet, but you guys know how much I love the Begonia Sinbad. Oh, I know what I said I was going to do. I said I was going to do this one, didn't I? Okay, you know what? The Alocasia Green Shield, I can do that. That's not an immediate thing that needs doing. I can do that next time. Nor is this, but this is more exciting. So the Begonia Sinbad, the one that I bang on about all the time at the moment, I absolutely love. I found a pink version of it called, I think this is a Begonia OU2 or something. But that's what it looks like. And as you guys know, I'm usually not one for particularly colourful plants, but it actually looks more pink in real life than it does on camera for some reason. But I just thought it was gorgeous. And I've had it rooting in water for probably about 3 weeks, I'd say. And it's got a decent root system. It's not a huge root system, but with the Begonia Sinbad, when I came to pot that up, it didn't have a massive root system either, and it just carried on rooting in soil. And I actually think that what I've got here will probably be quite good for it. So I'd like to go ahead with another no drainage thing that I'm just loving at the moment, and do the exact same thing again. Apart from this one will be very, 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 very quick. And then I ambitiously brought over so many things today. Because I don't think I'll get around to it today, but I just want to show you, look how much my Coleus amboinicus is growing. This is the one that I keep raving about and saying it's commonly known as Cuban oregano or Mexican mint, and you can eat it and it tastes delicious. It looks beautiful. It's honestly just the most gorgeous plant. But yeah, that one is literally falling forward and toppling its container over because it's getting so heavy. So that is on the list, but it can wait. I want to do the fun. I'm going to pop this up and then I want to do the fun one. The one that I deem fun anyway. Because it's just like, I don't know, it's like a decorative one that I've been wanting to do. But yeah, as I say, in fact, I've got some clay pebbles. Basically leca, but they're not allowed to call it leca, I think. But I'm just going to use them to fill the bottom of this. And they have been rinsed, but that was a bit dusty. I'm hoping that that won't cause too many issues. I'm doing quite a big layer of semi-hydro for this because, as I say, it hasn't got a massive root system yet. But assuming it grows similarly to the Begonia Sinbad, I would have thought this would be absolutely fine for it. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling.
Ross is just going to make some lunch. And then, I was going to say this will take all of 2 seconds.
And I'm going to continue putting dirt in this pot. Maybe some water. Oh yeah, go on.
So that's what it looks like. And yeah, we're going to take a 5-minute break now while Ross has his lunch. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to do the fun. Ross, what are you doing?
Nothing naughty.
Okay, the fun decorative thing. So be right back. Hello again. We are back. We have had a little lunch break. We have refreshed our coffee cups and we are good to carry on. Also, it's so depressing. It's only just after 2 o'clock and already the light's going. This is what I miss about the lovely summer seasons. Not that we had a great summer here in the UK, but the long light days are something that I just love so much. But at lunch, I just filled these two up. I made a little reservoir for this one here, which you can see. Can't see it that well actually, because obviously it's a leca base. And the same for this one. So I will keep you updated with them and hopefully, I feel pretty confident about this one, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, I feel pretty confident about both of them. I think it's just the Dischidia, I had to make some cuts in places that I wouldn't usually cut. So yeah, I will be supervising them both closely, but hopefully they will be fine. And then the fun thing that I wanted to do, there are a few fun things, but I have no idea how long I've been filming for, but classically I feel like I might be waffling for a very long time. But the fun thing, so Ross, bless him, got me this for my birthday, and it's a little open terrarium, and he's put little candles in there, which is gorgeous. They're little planty candles, and although I love it like this, firstly I'm a little bit worried because it's glass, that if I was to light a flame in there the glass might crack, but also I've got a plant, and actually earlier in the video I was saying about plants if I had to get rid of. This one I have been thinking of getting rid of, and in fact I've said a few times recently that I might get rid of. It's a Humidifier fasciata alba, just because I think it's fine. It's just one that I'm kind of caring for without really like taking much notice of. But when I was looking at this, I was like, something like this would look gorgeous in it. And I actually feel like at the moment, not that your plants have to have a purpose, but this feels like a bit of a purposeless plant. And I don't know why, I would just like to try it in here. I'd like to put a succulent of some sort in here anyway. Ideally one that doesn't grow ridiculously quickly and won't require a huge amount of care. And also I wanted to use this as a little bit of an experiment because this doesn't have drainage. So I would be growing this Humidifier in no drainage, which I think will be fine. But I don't want to risk trying it with one of my other succulents that I absolutely adore, just so that if it does go wrong, you know. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just take out these lovely little candles that Ross has put in, and they will get used. We will light them. They're very sweet, actually. But yeah, I'm going to just pop them to one side. And I'm actually probably going to leave the little layer of semi-hydro that Ross has put at the bottom and do a very similar no drainage system to what I've just been doing for the other ones. In fact, yeah, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that as thick as it is. And actually there was something very interesting that I need to kind of do a bit more research on before I can talk more fluently about. But lovely Memo, who you guys probably watch him on YouTube, he's a Houseplanty Goodness on YouTube. He did a speech at Malvern this year, a talk, and I think I can't remember what the exact topic was, but it was something along the lines of like weird and wonderful things that plants do. And one of his fun facts was about succulents and how they have like a very long root that helps to pull them underground and push them back up again so that they can kind of adjust their temperature and watering needs, which I thought was fascinating. I feel like it's called something like an anchor root. And so he said often when you see succulents potted in these very, very, very shallow containers, that's not the best thing for them because they would like to be able to use this root. So I'm just going to make sure that this has enough soil so that it can do that. And I'm just actually going to, no, I'm not, I'm going to empty the soil here. I did just water this just because the soil was very dry. So this one has been a little bit neglected. In fact, oh yeah, some of its roots are a bit squishy, so this might not work, but I just want to try it. I've got I've got a lovely aloe vera I could also put in there, but like I say, this is a plant that I like, I definitely don't love, I have considered getting rid of recently, and I'm like, why not put it to the test? But while I do this, in fact, I'm doddering on these questions. I thought that I always think that I'll whiz through them and then I'm always left with loads afterwards. But the next question was, how does YouTube work as a job? This is something I haven't spoken about for a while, but I have touched on before. If you're kind of new here and you haven't heard me speak about it before, YouTube is now weirdly my full-time job. I never set out to make it a full-time job. In fact, when I started on YouTube, I had no idea it could even be a job. I just enjoyed chatting about plants. But in a nutshell, the way that it works is you make a very small amount of money from the adverts on videos. So for example, often when you're watching one of my videos, it might say like ad break and there'll be an advert or two. I don't get to control what those adverts are, but I can control like where they go in my videos. So sometimes you might notice that I'll be like, I'm going to show you this next plant, and then I'll put an advert in. So it's like, hopefully they'll not click off the video because hopefully it's engaging. So yeah, that's one way that creators can make money from YouTube. It like really varies. So like there's no set rate. Sometimes you'll have a really good month. Sometimes you'll have a really bad month. It's kind of the same as like any freelancing job, but the scary thing with doing it on YouTube is the fact that you don't really have any control over it. Like I have zero control about what the YouTube algorithm shows people. There's nothing I can really do about that. So I do always have the slight panic of, oh my God, what if one day YouTube just stops putting my videos out? Because they could totally do that. They could totally do that. But yeah, also earlier in this video, you would have had me talk about Babbel, the language learning app. And that was I said at the time, that was a sponsorship. I am very, and I say this all the time, but I'm incredibly selective about the sponsorships that I take on, the brands that I work with. Often you'll hear me talk about a brand and then talk about it in other videos kind of over a long period of time. And that's not because I'm signed into a contract with that brand. It's just because if I find a brand that genuinely resonates with me and is something that I think might interest you guys, then I enjoy working with that brand over a longer period of time as opposed to just like a one-off video. So sometimes I'll get contacted from people being like, oh, you should check out this smoke alarm system and your viewers would love this. And I'm like, see, I don't think they would. And a lot of the time as well, I'll speak with companies that they might sound really great off the bat, and you know what, maybe they are really fantastic, but I'm just like, I'm not quite sure how that aligns with me. For example, when Babbel reached out to me, I've genuinely used the Babbel app before, genuinely really liked it. And I also have wanted to continue to learn Spanish for ages, so I was like, you know what, this actually is perfect timing, it does work quite well. And it's something that I feel like, I don't know, I genuinely feel like you, like planty person or not, you might be interested in that. The same goes for a skincare company that I've worked with recently. If you watch my other videos, you'll have probably seen that pop up quite a bit. Again, not related to plants, but it did feel very relevant to me at the time because I was struggling with my skin. Yeah, so those are things. That's another way in which kind of you can, to some degree, monetize things on YouTube. I know, like because I watch a lot of YouTube myself as well. I see some creators that literally in every single video they'll be like, oh, this is sponsored by this water bottle, and I'm like, okay, this is boring. So I do try to not take that for the sake of it. I mean, on the other hand, like, it is obviously a job. Sometimes you do need to say, oh, you know what, this might not be that relevant, but yeah, that in a nutshell is another option. Also, that root system is really small, so I hope this is going to be okay. I'm just going to mix some fine semi-hydro because I don't have any sand. I'm going to mix some fine semi-hydro through with this so that it can offer a little bit more drainage. But yeah, YouTube is a job. Aside from that, obviously, like, I know some some creators will monetize TikTok and Instagram and stuff. Personally, I don't. I am not a fan of those platforms on the whole. Like, I don't mind them, but I like making videos like this. The short form content that I make is few and far between because I just don't enjoy it as much. So I use it more as like marketing to bring people to my channel as opposed to this is a way to make money. That's just me personally. Like, again, I know different creators choose to do things differently. And apart from that, YouTube, what was the question? How does YouTube work as a job? Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very kind of shortly summarized version of how it all works, but in a nutshell, that is kind of it. Obviously, it sounds like the world's most wonderful job, and it is really fun a lot of the time. Honestly, I do feel very fortunate that I get to do something that I do actually really enjoy for work. There's obviously bits that come along with it that aren't always that enjoyable, but that is just what having a job is. There's a whole load of admin side of things that I really don't enjoy. I like, that's not me at all. I'm currently doing all my taxes, and oh my god, it's a headache and a half. Like, I'm very used to doing taxes for self-employed, but doing it for YouTube when you've got different income streams from different places, and like I do Patreon as well and stuff like that, so it's all like it's stressful and I hate it. But yeah, on the whole, I think the thing that I've really had to be very mindful of with now that I do YouTube as a full-time job, I have had to be very conscious about my time with, this is going to sound so weird, but like my time with plant care. I'm very conscious that this started as a hobby and I want to enjoy what I do. I don't want to be feeling like, oh God, I've got to film a video, and oh God, like, I really want to try and keep the joy of this alive. Like, I know one of the other questions somewhere on this list was, do you think you'll do YouTube forever? And I honestly can't answer that question. I have no idea where future stuff will take me. All I know is that I started doing this because I love plants. I love talking about them and I love sharing my collection and chatting to you guys, and that makes me so happy. The fact that I've been able to make some money from it and therefore do it as a job is a luxury. It's so nice. So long as people continue to watch my videos, I can't see myself stopping it. Yeah, like right now I cannot see myself stopping it, but as I say, I can't currently see anything else that I would really want to do. I trained back in the day. I trained as an actor, and I've always been drawn to creative worlds, I think, and again, like weird self-employed worlds, but this feels, I don't want to say like solid as a job, because obviously, like I've just said, there isn't any stability and like it can be a bit uppy downy and whatnot, but it just feels the best way that I can kind of like currently express myself within the work that I do. I feel like I'm very in control, and I am a massive control freak, so that absolutely helps. That's what I was going to say. That's tangents. That's what I was going to say as well, is I have had to be very mindful of the fact that this started as a hobby and I want to keep it enjoyable. So making time off camera to do things with my plants is as important as the time spent on camera in my eyes. Like, I'm always doing stuff with my plants off camera, and I don't ever want it to get to the point where that isn't a fun thing for me, because then why am I doing it? Then I turn into one of the creators that's just doing tick boxy money making things, and I do honestly think that that is very transparent, and that wouldn't make me happy. So yeah. But yeah, I think, as I say, in a nutshell, that's how it works. I can go I can go into more detail on this if you guys want to know. I know that there's I've got my lovely community over on Patreon, and a few of you guys are also creators in the plant community or have recently started on social media and are doing things like YouTube and stuff, and I think that's wonderful. I think that is so fantastic, and I love discovering other like creators in like all areas, but obviously plants is the most relevant to me. But yeah, I think it's so awesome, and I think that the great thing about this as a platform is the fact that there is always space for more creators. Like, I really don't get people, maybe it's different for different niches, but I really don't get the people that, I don't know, don't shout out the creators they love, I don't know. I know what I'm saying, but I feel like I'm not saying it very concisely. Basically, I just think we should support each other, and I think the plant community in itself tends to be a very supportive place. and there's room for everyone here. So on that note, if you have a planty social media, a planty channel, anything you want to shout out, even if it's not planty, even if it's just creative or something you want to shout out, feel free to drop it down below, because I would like to see it. But that took no time at all, but that is what it's looking like. Also, Ross said he just got this on Amazon, and I think it is so gorgeous. I love that. I really love that, and I do feel like I should be able to monitor it pretty well because of the little reservoir at the bottom. I really hope that's the case. I'll let you know. Because yeah, I think that looks beautiful. And I do, like, as I say, this is a plant that I wasn't really feeling, so I'm hoping that now growing it in this way, it almost just looks like a beautiful ornament. Yeah, I actually feel quite excited about it now, so yes. You know what, let's do one more, seeing as we're here. Oh, I was about to move on to something that I don't need to do. Seeing as I'm here, let's do the alocasia green shields, the one that keeps falling. And I actually, again, another birthday planty thing, but got this thing, which is basically just a glass container, but again, I thought quite good for semi-hydro. And a lot of you guys were saying that the reason my alocasia green shield probably isn't putting out that much growth is because it needs significantly more space around its roots. That makes sense because it's incredibly rooty, so I think I'm just gonna transfer it over to semi-hydro in this, and it will have so much more room up, down, width-wise, and I can always switch it out again if I want to. But yeah, I'm just gonna go straight back in it with more semi-hydro. And in the meantime, what was... so I think this kind of links. Someone said, do you give away and sell plants a lot? So I very rarely sell plants nowadays. So when I started out kind of in the planty community, I had started a little shop. That's why my name on here is TheJungleHaven, as opposed to something, I don't know, like Harley G, Wild Fern, like as opposed to something that is kind of like, I guess, a bit more personable. Yeah, that's where TheJungleHaven came from. And I did enjoy selling plants. I don't know, it became a bit like, it wasn't, I think, for me it was a short-term kind of lockdown thing. It was a way in which I thought I could monetize my hobby and still enjoy it, and it turns out I wasn't actually enjoying it that much. I started making YouTube videos and chatting with you guys in the community, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. So yeah, again, like, I feel so lucky that I can now say that it's my job. But yeah, I do a lot of swapping. As you guys know, I go to plant swaps fairly regularly. I do community swaps, like I've swapped with you guys on Instagram, on Patreon I do swaps quite a lot. But I honestly can't remember the last time I sold a plant. I think unless I had, I don't know, for example, like if I didn't have space for my massive Monstera dubia right now, I would probably sell it as opposed to swap it, just because I reckon I could probably get a few £100 for that plant, and why would I not want to do that? But on the whole, I prefer swapping to selling. That might change further down the line, but at the moment with my current situation, I have no desire to sell my plants. So yeah, that is the answer to that question. Oh my god, it's got so many roots. I mean, don't need to get all the semi-hydro off, I just want to kind of loosen it a little bit. I think that'll do. Look at those. That is crazy. Yes, so much more scope for this one to grow now. In fact, I might even pot it a little bit higher. Someone said, what's your favourite season? That's always a tough one to answer because I don't have like a definitive season that I love. I think I find I mean, I don't know, I was going to say, sounds very positive. I think I do find like positivity in all of the seasons. I love like autumn at the moment. I do love big coats, big jumpers, like snuggly clothes. I absolutely love that. When the trees start to turn, it's so beautiful. But then again, I think autumn and spring are probably my two favourites, because when you feel the days starting to get lighter and you can hear the birds singing and the geese come back, because I don't know what it's like in other parts of the world, but the geese always fly south for the winter. Like at the moment, I can just see them practicing. They keep flying past the window doing their little drills, and I'm like, oh God, they're getting ready to go. Yeah, I think autumn and spring are my two favourite seasons. When we have a good summer, I love summer as well, but it is a rarity here in the UK, sadly. How is Ross's plant collection doing? We want an up-to-date tour. Yeah, Ross's plants are actually doing really well. He, pretty much all of his plants live through in the bedroom now. He's got his little office area underneath the mezzanine that we sleep on. And yeah, that, like, I'm trying to think. There's been a few issues here and there, mainly pest related. Also because I'm not particularly good at checking his plants. I mean, he does, to be honest, he does, bless him, do pretty much all of his own plant care now. But he doesn't always notice the signs of pests. Like one of his little calatheas had spider mites very badly. In fact, he did lose his Calathea ornata. It was just riddled with spider mites. Talking of spider mites, I thought that was webbing, but in fact I think it's just dust. But yeah, his plants are doing well. I think he's probably got maybe 10 plants. Maybe he's got more than that. It's hard to tell. If you do want a collection tour of Ross's plants, again, do let me know, and I'm sure he'd be happy to do that. But yeah, I've just potted that up in this. To be honest, I really wish the base was a little bit lighter, because I'm more of a light woody gal, but I could probably sand it back if I wanted to. But I think that looks really awesome, and that does just allow so much more space for this plant to grow. So hopefully it will be much happier now. Keep your fingers crossed. But yeah, it's got 3 leaves at the moment, which is more than it's had in a while, all in one go at least. So hopefully that is the start of many more to come. But yeah, I think I'm going to finish here for today. As I say, just because I feel like I have been filming for a while. I never know how long these things are going to take, and I feel like it has taken some time. But as always, if you were doing stuff along with this video, I so hope you managed to get lots of stuff done. And yeah, I brought more stuff over to do, so I will do another repotty video probably in the next few days, and I will make it through the rest of these questions as well, because there were some fun ones that I was excited to answer. But yeah, I hope you all have a lovely day. Why is it so hard to speak all of a sudden? And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Again, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.